Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I would love it if you would like this video and subscribe to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting a Thanksgiving dinner. If you happen to live in the lovely state of California, there has been new restrictions placed yet again this year for COVID-19 or coronavirus. So I am cooking Thanksgiving dinner for 2 people. It'll be me and my SO, and whether or not you choose to spend the holiday by yourself, maybe with your pet, if you're spending it with your loved ones, or having, a party of 100, I hope you don't get caught. So for 2 people, I am not cooking a turkey. I'm actually going to be brining some pork chops, and then I will be cooking them in a cast iron skillet. To this meal, I'm going to be adding some vegetables, probably some squash. I have some mushroom, just very minimal, but I think I'm going to do stuffed mushrooms, and then some cranberry, homemade. And I might do a dessert. I mean, it's Thanksgiving, like I should do a dessert. So I haven't decided what yet. I'll leave that for tomorrow. But this is the night before, so I am going to brine my pork chops and get that out of the way. So for my brine, I have some water. I'm going to be using garlic and rosemary, some whole peppercorns, and then I have a mix of white and brown sugar, as well as some kosher salt. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, you want to dissolve your salt and sugar with the water and bring it up to a simmer. While that's coming up to a simmer, I'm just going to prep my other ingredients. I've cut a whole head of garlic in half. I'm going to use 1 large sprig of rosemary and probably about maybe half a teaspoon of peppercorns. I do want this to be super flavorful because it will get diluted when I pour the mixture over ice. Which brings me to my next thing. So I'm going to be using a container, but I'm going to use a bag to actually submerge my pork chops as well as the brine, but I just want to keep it in the container in case if there's any leakage, and that's going to be going in the fridge. So it's just about dissolved. I just dropped in my rosemary and garlic, and I do want to put in some peppercorn. I'm gonna bring this to a simmer just to make sure that everything is dissolved, and I'm gonna grab some ice from the freezer. So as this has come to a bubble, I'm gonna add some ice to my pot to cool it off, and then I'll add it to the bag. So I want to get some of the air out and then seal this up. I'll leave it that the meat is laying flat and submerged in the liquid. And I went ahead and put in the rosemary and the garlic, everything is in there. So this is going to take a nap in the fridge overnight. Hi everyone, welcome back. It is now the next day, Thanksgiving Day. Happy Thanksgiving. So I still have my pork chops in the brine solution. I do want to get started on my cranberry sauce. I did get fresh cranberries. This is something you can do well in advance. So, I'm home all day today, so I'm just doing everything today. And it is also something that will keep very well as leftovers. So if you make more than what you need, it really shouldn't be an issue because you can always use it later on toast or on top of yogurt. There's different ways that you can eat it. So pretty simple and straight to the point. I have some cranberries. I'm going to be using some orange peel and juice, cinnamon stick, and sugar. So I put everything in my pot, and this is going to cook down. Once it starts looking like cranberry sauce, that's when you know it's done. So there's just the orange juice in here. I did not add any additional water. I'm going to stir this around a little bit to help the sugar dissolve a bit. And, you know, this will probably take, I'm not sure, 25 minutes? I'll just keep an eye on it, and then when it's done, I'll take it off the heat. So here's my cranberry sauce bubbling away. You'll start hearing the berries pop, and that is perfectly fine and perfectly normal. Of course, this is not done, but it's coming along just fine, and it's pretty low maintenance. So as it begins breaking down and thickening up, you'll know it's getting close when you drag your wooden spoon, and you know it's leaving a clear trail. It looks good. I will be tasting it just in case if it needs more sugar, or in the off chance that there was too much sugar, I may be adding a little bit of more orange or lemon juice towards the end. So the other project that I gave myself today was to make mini meatballs for the freezer. That's not what this video is about, but because I planned on making some stuffed mushrooms, only because I had some mushrooms, I pinched off a piece of the ground meat to use for this. Okay, so for my mushrooms, I've already chopped up the stems. I have a small clove of garlic, some grated provolone, however you can use mozzarella. I'm going to add some grated Parmesan as well, and I have some spinach as well as a little bit of ground meat and my mushroom caps. I'm also going to preheat my oven. To a nonstick pan, I'm going to start with my ground meat. I'm going to let this cook and break up. And as the meat is browning, I've added a little bit of olive oil, and I'm also, I've added my mushrooms. So this is going to cook down. I'm going to give this a minute, and then I'm going to grate in my garlic and a pinch of salt and pepper. I've also added just the slightest touch of nutmeg to this. And I'm just going to cook it for about another, maybe a couple minutes. I do want the meat to be fully cooked and the mushrooms to get more color on there. So I went ahead and added my washed and chopped spinach. I do want to chop this before a little bit because I don't want like really big pieces of spinach, and I think I missed one leaf, but that's okay. And this is just going to finish cooking and wilting down. Then I'm going to set this aside in a bowl. So to a small bowl, I've put in maybe like a tablespoon and a half of breadcrumbs. I'm going to add my mixture from the skillet, as well as my cheeses, and I'm going to mix this up really well. So this is my provolone, and my Parmesan or Parmesan or Parmigiano Reggiano, whatever. And this, you know, just, I'm not measuring, I'm just putting it in. And if you'd like to taste it for seasoning after mixing it, by all means, go ahead and do that. I've already tasted it before I've added the Parmesan. Okay, so to my mushroom caps, I'm just going to sprinkle some salt, as well as a little bit of olive oil. And you do want to pack it in quite well. The cheese is basically there to hold everything together. The bread adds a little bit more filling if you're short on certain ingredients. It does help out a lot. The spinach is there because it's nice to have something green, and if you don't have ground meat, you can use Italian sausage. That is typically what I use, but I just happen to have some ground meat today. So these are ready to go in the oven, and I'm just looking for the mushrooms to get cooked. So at this point, I've also taken out my pork chop from the fridge. I just kind of want to bring it a little bit to room temperature, so it's about 45 minutes before I want to cook it. And then I'm also going to prep my vegetables. So I was thinking, you know, do I do dessert? Do I not do dessert? But what's Thanksgiving without dessert? It's, you know, pretty pointless to have a nice meal without something sweet at the end. So I don't really have time to bake anything too complicated. I do have apples in the fridge, so I'm gonna do some baked apples. I am using Granny Smith, which is the green one, but you can use whatever you'd like. I'm gonna show you the other ingredients that I'm gonna put together as well and show you how I do this. Okay, so for my baked apples, I'm going to be using Granny Smith, as I mentioned. I have a little bit of apple juice, some lemon, some demerara sugar, some brown sugar, along with a small pinch of salt in this bowl. I'm going to add some raisins, and for my spices, I'm going to do cinnamon, star anise, and cloves. The other thing is, I tend to leave the skin on. I happen to like the skin, but if you want to peel it, feel free. So when you get the core out, just like either squeeze some lemon on it or rub it with some lemon just to prevent some browning. The other thing that I want to do is just slice a tiny bit on the bottom so it'll lie flat in my dish. Like that, and then it has a flat base. So the other thing that I forgot to add was some pecans that I have. And they are really fresh and very sweet. So I'm just chopping that up finely and incorporating that with my sugar and salt, a pinch of salt, as well as some raisins. If you have dried cranberries or other dried fruit that you'd like to use, please feel free, but this is the mixture that I'm working with today. So unfortunately, one of my Granny Smith apples was not that great, and I used something else that I had in the fridge. I actually don't even know the name. So to the centers, again, much like the mushrooms, you're just gonna put the filling in the middle. And then as this bakes in the oven, the sugar will caramelize and glaze the apples. I'm not doing flour, I'm not doing oatmeal, I'm not doing anything like that. I'm not just, you know, keeping it really simple and to the point. But do try to, you know, load them up because this will turn out really, really great. And then to this, on the bottom of the baking dish, I'm going to add a little bit of apple juice. And then to the apple juice is where I'm going to stick my other spices. And this will just create some aromatic. So this is a star anise. It has some seeds in the pod. Just going to drop one in. And then my cloves. Oh, that's a lot. I'm just going to drop a couple of cloves in, and that's more than enough. I used 5, but even if you had 2, that would have been plenty. So this is going to get covered, and it's going to bake in the oven until the apples are tender, probably about an hour or so, but I will check at about a half hour in. And maybe just, you know, vent it a little bit, but because there's other things in the oven, this is going to be self-contained. Here are my mushrooms. They're looking really good, but I am going to give this another maybe 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. So now I want to prep my vegetables. I found small zucchini and I'm going to be sauteing these, but I do want to prep them. So I kind of want to leave the tops a bit, but I'm going to trim it just to have a fresh edge exposed. And then depending on the size, I may just cut them in half or in quarters lengthwise. So you'll have like this nice long piece of zucchini. And then my other vegetable that I'm going to prep is a Delicata squash, and this I've washed really well. I'm going to leave the skins on, but I am going to trim the ends, scoop out the insides, and slice it thinly and just roast it in the oven with some olive oil, salt, and pepper. So the squash are ready to go in the oven. I'm going to put them in and take the mushrooms out. So now I've taken my pork chop out of the brine and dried it off really well. I'm going to get my cast iron skillet ready, and this is going to start on the stove top in the cast iron skillet and finish in the oven. And the other thing that I'm grabbing is a couple of garlic cloves, some more rosemary, a bit of butter, and I'll probably finish with a touch of lemon as well. So I've preheated my pan for several minutes and I've put grapeseed oil. I just wanted something a little more neutral this time, but it is ready. So we're gonna sear the pork. Well, I have this over a medium heat now, and I'm going to sear the pork on all sides. I'm just going to kind of wait until, well, I guess that's it. Okay, so this looks pretty good. I'm gonna put this in the oven. So I took my squash out, put the pork in, and now I'm gonna finish up my zucchini on the stove. Okay, so to my pan, I have some olive oil, and I'm just gonna drop these in. I'm also going to sprinkle this with a bit of salt. And I've also added some dried thyme. So this is going to get covered and cook until tender. So this is going to be a little difficult, but I'm going to be basting the pork. And I can't do that and record at the same time, but just to give you an idea, I've dropped some butter, some garlic, and some rosemary, and I'm going to baste the pork. This is what it looks like after basting it. It looks phenomenal, and I'm going to remove this from the heat and let it rest. Zucchini done. Squash done. Pork is resting. I'm going to give that at least like a good maybe 7 to 10 minutes. So my apple actually fell apart, but that's good. These are done, so I'm just going to let them rest also. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this meal. I hope everyone has a really happy Thanksgiving. Once again, if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. And I wish everyone a great, safe, and happy holiday.